to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I have one of my VIP attendees from LuAnn Live. It's about the conversation. At LuAnn Live, I gave each VIP guest a directive. I said, in the coming months, I want to know what you have done, what you have achieved based on the things you learned and the people that you have met at LuAnn Live. And when you have that clear, I want you to come on the show and tell me and tell you guys about it. So today I have Christina Bruce with me. Christina is the principal of Christina Bruce Interiors in Vero Beach, Florida. The things that she has put into action and the way she has created a 180-degree turnaround in her business are absolutely remarkable. You'll hear her describe how before attending, she was actually questioning should she even stay in business, questioning if it was fulfilling her and if it was worth all of the hard work required because she has twins and a husband and so much on her plate. Wait till you hear her lessons and her actions. I am so impressed. And this is exactly why I run my own live events. I want this to be a transformation for you as long as you're willing to do the work. So I will continue to gather the best in the industry to learn from, to have access to motivate and inspire you if you will show up with an open mind, an open heart, and ready to work. To this end, please listen all the way to the end of the show for some news I think you'll be glad to hear. Now, before we get to my conversation, let's thank Kravet Inc. for sponsoring the show. And let me ask you, have you used your 10% off code yet on any Kravet fabric wallpaper or trim? I hope you have, but if not, please use it. Please open an account with Kravet. It's so easy. Fill out the paperwork and you can place an order right away. There are no minimums. Source for your next project at Kravet.com and save 10% on any one order. I'm wondering, why wouldn't you? Go to Kravet.com today and open your trade account. Now, let me introduce you to Christina. Hi, Christina. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, Christina, when you send me a DM like the one I got from you, that's sort of like right directly to my heart and my podcast. I'm just going to say.
Well, good. All the accolades were very well deserved. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. You, just to let our friends in, a couple of months out after LuAnn Live, you had come to my live event back in March of 2019. And Correct. A couple of months out, you sent me a DM on Instagram, and you literally, look, thankfully and gratefully, I got a lot of message in all different ways from people who had been at the event and sharing some things. But you had this big list of things that you really identified as being positives for yourself and your business at attending LuAnn Live. And of course, you were one of the VIP guests that I gave every single VIP guest the headset that I require my guests to use. And I said, when you have figured out what you have learned from LuAnn Live, I want to hear from you and I want to have you on the show. And so you have taken me up on that, and I'm so glad. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Are you kidding me? This is a wonderful opportunity, and I just love any opportunity to share what I've learned with other people.
Okay. So tell us, get us started. So tell me a little bit about why you decided to come to LuAnn Live. What was it that made you get on a plane from Florida and come all the way to New Jersey and spend the weekend with us?
So I had some wonderful experiences in interior design, and of course went to the Savannah College of Interior Design, and had just sort of within the last 8 months left a previous place of employment that I'd been at for about 5 years to start my own company. And through just a variety of personal issues, health issues with my family, I had taken about 6 months off from the design field altogether, and just kind of gotten myself in a really sort of negative headspace in terms of what am I doing with my life? Should I really be an interior designer? So when I say that going to LuAnn Live was sort of, I don't want to say a last ditch effort, but I really needed something to sort of pull me out from this big negative headspace. And it did that and so much more. I mean, what I learned in terms of information and facts, I mean, I have a whole notebook full of that and a whole set of action items I created, which I followed through on and have had amazing success. But when you say it's about the relationships, you're not kidding, because the friendships and the advice I got from people, it was like an interior design support group. I mean, by the end, I felt like we all just had given each other a big group hug and sent each other on our ways with encouragement.
It's funny because so often each of us, and now I'm going to actually just speak for me. When I set out to do something, I always have, especially something that is sort of, let's call it big, okay? It was sort of a big idea for me, to decide, really with finality in November that I was pulling the trigger and doing this in March. And my whole team looked at me and said, that's 5 months away? Like, are you kidding? And I was like, and the thing is, what happens is I do get a vision and I do start to see things clearly the way they are. And the most significant things in my life really do have a very clear vision. And that doesn't mean I wake up every day and know exactly how to do it, but it means that I see it. And I really did see this in the way it happened. It's like, I've said it on the show before, when the Power Talk Friday one-day coaching events are a completely different experience, but I saw them when I launched the first one in July of 2018, going up and leading to it. I could see, and I was saying to everybody, it's going to be like this, it's going to be like this. And then it was like that. And it was the same with this. And I remember thinking, what I've learned in traveling the country and meeting designers all over the country, there's many things I've taken away from those experiences and those conversations, but one of the biggest things that I've consistently have taken away is either I notice, I feel, or I'm actually point blank told by a designer that I'm an introvert, and I like to go to the events, but I feel uncomfortable once I get there. And I worry when I get there if I'm going to talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Right. And I just had this and I was like, not at my event. We are going to be together. We are going to connect. We are going to bond. And people would say to me, but there's 200 people. How are you going to do that? And the thing is, I didn't have an answer. I just knew and felt it and had the vision. And it happened, didn't it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was sort of like interior designer summer camp, when you're in middle school and your parents make you go to summer camp and you're so nervous. And then you meet that one friend, like I met Cat French, and it just spiraled from there. And then you're leaving and you're like crying and, becoming pen pals with people, which is exactly what happened. I mean, I just talked to Kat this morning. So I can't even explain it, honestly. The energy that was in that room, I wish I could bottle it and sprinkle it on me every once in a while when I'm having a bad design day.
I know, right? And so did you know Kat before going to LuAnn Live? Did you know her through social or anything?
No, I knew not a soul. I mean, of course I'd listened to your podcast.
Yeah, she was on the podcast episode number 376, right? Okay, so okay. So you didn't know a soul.
Not a soul. No, I mean, I knew of obviously the speakers, knew of them, I shall say. But no, I did not know a single attendee.
Interesting. It's funny because I remember I was talking on a live one day about if you're an introvert, I don't want you to be concerned about coming. I'm going to be with you the entire time. Like, I'm not going to be in my hotel room for 3 hours resting, like 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and 8 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock on Monday. I just said, I'm going to be there. And if you need a wingman, I'm there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I remember after that, Elisa, I want to say she's from Texas, but I'm not sure. I can picture her Instagram handle. Hi, Elisa. She literally right then went, I just decided when you said that, I'm coming. And she's like, I'm an introvert. Don't leave me hanging.
Yeah. And I felt like there was such like design love in the room that if you saw someone, I'm not as much of an introvert. So, if I saw someone that was sitting by themselves, everyone just went up and introduced themselves. It was like everyone was there for the same purpose. And the energy just spiraled. And the access we had to the speakers, who of course are there for their knowledge and expertise, was just amazing. I mean, I sat down with Taylor Spellman and peppered her with questions for about an hour at lunch, and it was
How much
completely enormous.
I mean, honestly.
Yes. So much. She's so funny.
Oh my God.
She's just so funny.
She's like, her energy just exudes off the stage, right? And how about, honestly, the power combination of her and Shauna Lynn Simon together on stage, it was like mega wattage, wasn't it?
Oh, amazing. So, well, all of the speakers, all the pairings you did. I mean, there wasn't a single person that I didn't either learn something from or just laugh out loud at.
I know. It was so good. So tell me about that hour conversation with Taylor at lunch. Any nuggets or wisdom that you got from Taylor?
Yeah. So, Vero Beach, the town I live in, while it's small, she and I in New York City and Vero Beach actually have sort of some element of crossover with the type of clientele we serve. Vero's teeny tiny, but it's a large grouping of pretty high wealth. And where I had been working before was a very high-end residential architecture firm. So I kind of wanted to pick her brain because I thought, oh gosh, well, if she can pull it off in New York City, then if I can use some of her ideas in Vero Beach with these high-end, they'll sort of feel like they're at home. So, but I think the most significant conversation I had really with anyone was specifically with her, when I finally worked up the courage and Kat pushed me in her direction to talk to her. We just sort of I introduced myself. She didn't need to. And she just sort of said to me like, okay, so, why are you here? Like, what are you looking to do? And I spoke kind of briefly about where I was in terms of like in the headspace I was in, that I was just feeling kind of discouraged and lost, really, I think is maybe the best way to say it. Maybe questioning a little bit too, whether I made a mistake leaving my previous firm. And she looked at me and she said, okay, well, what are your goals? And then as soon as she said it, she stopped and she said, you know what, I'm actually going to ask you instead, what is your motivation? And just the switching of those two words was so absolutely brilliant, because I've got a lot of goals. Like I can tell you a lot of goals I have, but when she said, what is your motivation? Immediately, without even thinking, I said my family. And, I've really used that as sort of the, center of all my decisions moving forward with my business currently. Of course, I still have those big lofty goals, and I spend a tiny amount of time sort of pushing the needle in their direction. But all in all, especially right now in my life, I have 6-year-old twins and a husband that, is also trying to build his career. I really need to focus on what is best for my family. And that might mean that it might take me longer to become any sort of known name, or maybe I never will. And that's okay. I can still be successful and happy and satisfied being a big name in Vero Beach, Florida.
I love that, Christina, because the thing is, it is so true. And I've said it on the show before. This is not like, just being all flowery. I truly believe that if you're a parent, it is the most important thing that you will do in your lifetime. I really do believe it. And the thing about it is I often am working with younger designers, and all of a sudden the goal list gets really long. And when I think about the time and energy to execute, and they want to know from me, how do I do this? How do I execute? And I cannot, it's the old lady mama in me that just requires me to say, is this aligning with your family right now?
Right.
Like
Right. Exactly.
you're in your 30s. You've got a whole life to do. Can we put the babies out into the world as decent human beings?
Right.
And so my point is, to your point and to what Taylor taught you, and I'm so glad for it, is that, what is your motivation? Get clear on it, because somebody's motivation at this exact moment might be, do you remember the interview with Vanessa De Leon? Now, she was way back in the beginning of the podcast, and she said at 20 years old, I want to be the Latina Martha Stewart. That was her motivation, right? And she just has consistently built that career. So the reality, though, is that you start with that clarity. What is my motivation? And you can build your business, and you can be an interior designer, and you can have fantastic projects. And that could be second place to what you're describing as your first place is your family. And so I love the clarity of that, because it really does kind of change things. It's like a little gear shift, right? It's like click, click, and it's like,
absolutely.
Like a Rubik's Cube, right? Click, click. Oh, that makes sense over here now, right?
And it gave me so much clarity too, in terms of, why I had been marginally unhappy at my previous place of employment. Sort of things I loved about it, and also the things I didn't like about it. And, it really made me realize, oh, okay, that's really why I needed to do something on my own, was to have more flexibility with my kids.
Right. There's no time limit on your entrepreneurial spirit. There's no time limit on your mental creativity and, visualizing and making your goals and your dreams happen. But there is a time limit on being a good parent. If you don't do it right in the beginning, you can't when they're 30 say, hey, let me just have a do-over.
Let's rewind. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was completely absent, but could I show up now?
Right.
So good for you. And of course, I love and adore Kat. Tell me about some of the things that you learned, the two of you together, in this experience. And now you said you're, 3, 4, 5 months later, you're still literally communicating.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it was just one of those funny things. I literally sat down at the bar the day before, the event happened, and she happened to be sitting next to me, and we just immediately got to talking and had so much in common. Interestingly, we both have sort of the same mindset, but yet completely different goals in terms of where, we want to take our company and what we sort of see as our superpower and all of that. So I think, we've just continued to stay in touch, and it's just so nice to have another designer to talk to that, isn't necessarily a designer in your hometown. So it's not like you're giving them secrets, or you feel comfortable being like, well, I really just messed that up. Listen to what I did. I mean, we joked today. I had to call her, of course, to get my little pump up speech from her about coming on today. And, we said, gosh, maybe we should pitch a spinoff where we're like all the things we've done wrong in our well-designed business. Because I mean, sometimes, as much as I learned at SCAD and at my previous places of employment, or sometimes you don't learn stuff until you do it really wrong. And then you say, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
Right.
And then to be able to share that with her, to say, okay, let me tell you what I did, and this is what I did to fix it. So if you're in this situation, or bounce ideas off of each other, this is what I did. What do I do?
Right.
It's just awesome. And just to motivate each other. She has a very large company with multiple employees. And right now in my life, that's just not anything, that I'm interested in. And meanwhile, I want to do things like, I applied to be a style spotter, and she's like, I would rather shoot myself. Like, that sounds miserable. Like, no,
I could totally picture Kat saying that.
Yeah. She's like, oh, gosh. Yeah. So we keep saying that somehow we're going to collaborate and combine our superpowers, but we haven't quite figured out how to do that from, our two North Carolina to Florida. But, and there's also other people I met that we continue to keep in touch through social media and encourage each other. And, even if it's a comment on each other's, pictures we post on Instagram. It's just nice knowing I feel like I have like a family of designers behind me now.
I love it. I love it. And how about that? Are there some particular things that you can share with us, Christina? You said you had a notebook full of ideas, but you also said that you had a list of the action items that you've taken. So I'd love to have some, tips that we can share with our designer colleagues listening of things that you learned and what you did from it.
What I did, this is so basic, but just in terms of when I go to the next LuAnn Live, and you all go because you're listening to this and you realize how great it is, I kept notes, and then in the margin, I immediately, as soon as an idea popped into my head, I'd write it in the margin, whether it was just the name of someone I could call, the specific thing that I could do, and I circled it so that in the end I could go back through and read through my notes and then also look at these action items and sort of create, a to-do list for myself. So, gosh, everything from the idea of, niche is rich, and I started to focus in my town. It's a much older population, so I started to focus in on the idea of aging in place, because that's something I've had a fair amount of experience with in different design aspects. So getting articles out in the local newspaper about those sort of things. Nicole Heimer, who said, don't focus on doing foyers for children. That was one of the moments where I almost fell off my seat. Analyze your market and who it is you want to market yourself to, and then figure out what those people need. And that's what I did, because at the end of the day, the predominance of wealth in this town is between ages 55, 60 to, even upwards of 85. And this is something that, of course, can benefit my company, but can also benefit my community, the ability to help people age more gracefully in their own homes.
I love that. So what happens is you're sitting there in the audience. Nicole and Dala are talking. And of course, Nicole is our branding expert, and she had the chapter in the book, Defining Your Brand. Okay. And Dala was on the podcast, and she launched her interior design firm, niching into restaurant design. And so you're sitting there, you're listening to Dala talk about her restaurant design, but your brain says, what is it in my area that I could do, or what in my business? And so from there, you're like, I'm in Vero Beach. People are old. People are rich. Let me do this.
Yes.
I love it.
Basically, yes. Yeah. And I think it's important to, if you hear me say high-end residential design throughout this podcast and think, oh my gosh, she thinks she's so fancy. It's about the fact that you really need to think about your community. And that is really the predominance of my community here in Vero Beach, of people who will use residential design. And that is where my expertise is, because of the experience I've had. So I would suggest, if you're someone who's not in a community like this, don't say I want to be a high-end residential interior designer, because that it sounds great, but maybe that's not the best place in terms of where you can gain experience or where your demographic is. It's all about sort of, I think, focusing in on the best way to make yourself successful within the exact demographic of where you live.
Okay. Makes sense. I like it. It makes sense, because you could be in a community that is predominantly senior citizens, but maybe they're not also the cross section of high-end wealthy people. There might be middle of the road people, in which case, if you're marketing to senior citizens who are wealthy, and that's not the largest group of senior citizens in that area, you're not going to get your business up and running quickly. You can you can still build your firm that way. There's no question. You can build your firm in any way, but you're saying, hey, I'm starting my company here, and I needed to get some people and some live people in the pipeline ASAP.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't necessarily set yourself up to say high-end fill in the blank, residential, commercial, whatever, is the ultimate goal. Because as someone who, that's sort of what I focus on, just because of where I am, let me tell you, it's not necessarily where you're going to make the most money. And I can give you a whole separate podcast on the challenges of it. So that's just my little, talk out to the people who are listening going, oh gosh, because that's my head talk is constantly, I'm such a failure. I should be doing this. This other girl is doing this. Why am I not doing this? So anyway, that's just my little talking point for the people who are doubting themselves in this minute.
Nuts.
But going back to Dala, in terms of, again, another perfect example, she was doing the design it forward. And that immediately, my little action item in my margin said, gift certificates for different events, live auctions within different charities that are in Vero Beach. I mean, we have one at least once a month here. And I have gotten some of the best clients, first of all, because they're kind people who go to charity events and, spend their copious amounts of money for good. But also they're great projects. And, I just donate a gift certificate with a specific amount of time, and every single time it's grown to be a larger project.
Wow. Did you hear the show recently with Carolyn Flannery?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And I was like, oh, I thought that was my original idea, but I guess other people haven't. But, again, analyze your community and where you want to be.
Right.
And
for you, it's not the PTAs and the schools because you're
exactly.
going after the seniors that are wealthy. Right. So, but it's terrific.
Exactly.
And I love that because the fact is if you weren't at LuAnn Live and you haven't listened to Dalla's show yet, which I'll put the episode in the show notes so you can. But the thing is, what I love is what Dalla is doing is not that at all. But what she is doing, and she describes to you, kicks off an idea for you. And that's what's
right.
the value of being together, either in listening to the podcast or being at the live event, because Dalla's Design It Forward is where she is, you can listen to it, her episode, but she is selecting and she's having this contest between restaurants in her area in Arizona that need their restaurants redesigned. And so she's designing it forward and she's donating her time to the person that wins this. But it's a whole marketing machine that envelops the entire town. And, the way it's exponentially grown her business and her stature in the community cannot be overlooked. I mean, it's just incredible.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And so you're sitting there and you take that to say, oh, well, what are the community events in my area that I can get involved in where my people are, right?
Right, exactly. Where is it that I want to start for people to recognize my name? Maybe they're not the person who buys it, but next time they see, one of my articles in the local magazine, they're going to say, oh, I've never seen that girl. So,
she must be famous. She's everywhere.
Yeah. And so going back to the idea of, the way I sort of extracted different essences of the different speakers' ideas and applied it to myself and my community and my business. Another great example is Kay Whitaker, who focuses on email marketing. And right now, that's not really something that's essentially achievable for me as I'm trying to grow, and maybe not, I haven't found a way to make it applicable to my business yet. But one thing that she did say that stuck with me is that, people want to get information really on any subject from an expert. And so I immediately thought of, okay, maybe not email, but to get out the word in my small town, go to one of our local magazines, which when I say one of, I mean there are two. So again, if you're in a big city, hats off to you that you're hustling much bigger, I think, than I have to. But and I said, listen, how about I write a article for you for every publication for an entire year, and obviously I won't charge you for this information, and it will give me a way to get my name out there and present myself with the areas of design that I do have some level of expertise on. And it gives them, an interesting article, because we all know everyone always loves to learn about interior design and think about ways to, refresh their homes and these different concepts that I speak about in my articles.
I love it. I love it because the fact of the matter is every magazine, whether you're a small town local magazine all the way up to the big guys, they're just hungry for content every single month. And so, and especially if you can come to them with finished content, you know what I mean? Like that's like, yay, slam dunk, right?
Here's the picture. Here's my words.
Exactly. I love it. That's awesome. And I love again that the idea being talked about on stage by Kay wasn't exactly the idea that she was talking about that is what you executed, but it inspired you to think of the way that you could do it. So very cool.
Absolutely. And and then there are other moments too where people would say things from an expert point of view. Michelle Williams with her Profit First And then I said, oh, I'm already doing that. Look
Ah,
at me.
isn't that the best,
Yay, I
right?
didn't know there was a name. It was the right thing to do. I just knew that, every penny I spent on my company was a penny I couldn't put in my back pocket. And I made a couple huge mistakes when I first started my very first company in Savannah that, like I said to you before, I feel like I need the hashtag dumb girl because I was just, instead of hashtag smart lady, because I'll be perfectly honest. I spent $20,000 on an office renovation that, LuAnn, I never one single time met with a client in that office.
What? How did you do that?
Because I was very young. Let's go back to this. I was in my mid-20s at this point, and I had worked for previous designers in Savannah, and they all had these lovely offices where they met with their clients. And I kind of was from the mindset of like, I don't know, if you build it, they will come. And at the end of the day, I just was making foolish interior. I heard somebody say one time that, if you make business decisions without any sort of actual clear plan, you're basically playing office. And at that point, I was, doing interior decorating essentially, but I didn't come at it from a very focused standpoint. And my sweet husband tried to steer me in other directions, but I said, no, this is what I have to do. This is what these other people have. And I mean, the reason why I never once met anyone there was because truthfully, we ended up by moving back to Vero Beach, but also, and even now, that's why it works for me to work out of my home. A lot of people want you to come to their house and bring the samples to their house. So, yeah,
I misunderstood at first what you're saying. I thought you designed it for someone else and never met with the client.
No.
You opened your own studio, invested $20,000 and never ever had
yes.
Painful.
Oh, yes. $20,000 of my money. But man, I really love sitting in there writing my QuickBook invoices. Oh goodness.
Yeah. So it's the mistakes. The mistakes are killer, but the mistakes are, look, you got to pick yourself up from the mistakes and take your lesson with you because otherwise you repeat them, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just like with everything in life, but specifically, I think for design, there's just so many different little nitty-gritty avenues and situations you can find yourself in. I think with interior design, I don't know if it's just because it's like an intimate, you work so intimately with your clients, and there's just so many different avenues and so many things that can go wrong. But I think you definitely in a lot of ways learn best from your mistakes. And I think it's important, anyone who's listening who's thinking about going into interior design or brand new baby designer, as you call them. I like to say I'm a toddler designer with a baby business. But I think it's important to get experience in one way or another, whether it's through going to an actual school with a specific interior design accredited program or working with another experienced interior designer for a little while.
No, I definitely think it is. I have to tell you, the number of times that I will see a post in Facebook in the design groups with a designer who is legitimately struggling with a dilemma, whatever it may be, but I would say at least 3 times a week, my brain says when I see the question, and my brain will say, you should have learned that by working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, why are you in your own business yet? Like, why? Like, I don't understand what is the driving need to open your own business without even spending 1 year. Like, half of the questions in my mind, even if you spent 1 year working for someone else, those questions would not be questions. And the thing is, I'm not mocking and I'm not being denigrating to those of the designers that have the grit to just start out a business. I get it, but the point is that you're just going to go through it longer, harder, slower. There are certain things that even 1 year working for somebody. I mean, because I think recently there was a question on legitimately how to execute a PO to place an order with a furniture company. And my brain just went, I don't get that. Like, because you're not going to learn it necessarily in design school. We got to get over that. They don't have a minute left over to teach you the business side of it.
Exactly.
In the curriculum that they have to teach you with all the other disciplines that you need to know in order to be talented at your craft. But one measly year in your life, and you just would eliminate so much of that angst.
Absolutely.
And 5 years is even better, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I had gone to SCAD, and I had worked for several interior designers in Savannah before I started my own tiny little company, which of course, you've heard that previous story now. So, and I was successful, but that was just one really stupid thing I did. And I still, even when we moved to Vero Beach, it was my hometown, and I knew a lot more people here and could have a, much quicker growth in terms of clientele than I did in Savannah. But I still, analyzed the market and said, if I want to be working with, these sort of, wealthy clientele, like, I am not prepared for that. And, had the wonderful opportunity to work with my previous firm that I just learned. I mean, I can't even tell you how much I learned, and how wonderful it was to be a part of this just very big dream of this gentleman named Clem Schaub. If you're looking for a high-end residential architect, please Google him. He has more talent in his left pinky finger than I have in my whole body. But, again, he's also very, very, very experienced. And he's, of course, would always never make us feel bad about the dumb things we would all do throughout, and would just, sometimes would even say, oh my gosh, let me tell you about this time that I did something like that when I was just starting off. But, just gained that experience through being there for a little over 5 years. That was just paramount to my ability to start my own company now.
It is so true. And I'm so glad that you had that experience.
Absolutely.
Last name is Shaw, S-H-A-W?
Schaub. First name is Clem, so it's C-L-E-M. Last name is Schaub, S-C-H-A-U-B.
Okay, so if you're in Savannah.
No, Vero Beach.
He's in Vero Beach. I'm sorry,
Correct.
I missed that. Okay,
yes.
So right, okay, missed that. Okay, good, very good. All right. So here's what we have. You have a conversation with Taylor that gets you focused and gets you understanding clarity, and helps you with each decision that you make in your business going forward, this or that. Then you have Kay Whitaker, who really gives you an idea and sparks you, and you reach out to the magazine, and you're now writing a monthly column for them. Then you have the conversation with Nicole Heimer and Dala Fawaris that inspires you to reach out to the different community and charitable organizations where your target demographic client is hanging out, and you get involved and you make donations and you do different things there. Are you, before you tell me any other great, wonderful insights and actions you've taken, it's only been a few short months. Are you seeing results from any of these, or is so far the tangible result just the feeling of direction and something to do?
No. Feelings are great, but money is better.
Okay, so they're actually working.
Yeah, I mean, that was sort of my thing. I felt so bad that I had taken so long to DM you after the event, just to thank you, because, I felt like you were really genuinely doing this to help us. I mean, I imagine, of course, there was some profit there, but at the end of the day, it really felt like you just wanted us to succeed. And that's what I really think.
Well, we
really
all succeed
speaks
together.
to your character.
You understand that?
Absolutely. There you go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I know
but that's why it took me so long, was because all of a sudden I was finally, putting these things into place. And, I realized that I think where I was in my head at the time was, the thing is when you put yourself out there and let people know that you want something, then it seems like if you fail, it will be more difficult. Does that make sense? Like, admitting that you want success kind of lets people know and puts you on people's radar screens. And it's a lot easier to just hide in your house and hope that the phone's going to ring and you're somehow miraculously going to get clients. But you have to put yourself out there. You have to,
Well, do you
take
know
the
why you
emotional
do
risk.
though? Do you know why you do though? Because the thing is, I hear what you're saying. So what you're saying is, if I go and I give these gift certificates to the different charities, if I go and I actually write this column in the magazine and I don't get any clients from it, you're considering that, and I'm just taking it apart here with you.
Yeah.
You're saying that would be considered a failure on your part, and you would feel that it was public. And so before being at the event and having these different ahas and the great friendship and the support of Kat, I'm sure was helpful during this process, is that you felt like it would be a noticeable failure. Do I need to tell you that none of us would know that? Not anybody in your community, not anybody that reads the magazine. There's nobody that would read that magazine article and think, she probably didn't get any new clients from this. Like, they're just taking in the joy of the information you're giving them. And now you have this aha on the other side. And here's the thing. I hear you have the aha on the other side because it happened, because you did get the phone to ring. But I need us to stop and slice this here. We're always going to do things and they may not work. But the world is not watching that closely. Believe me. They are just not.
And, example, the gift certificates, like, I have no idea how much these people ended up by paying for these gift certificates that are worth $1,500 of my time. Right. They may have paid $75, right. But at the end of the day, on one hand, it doesn't really matter because they've all become much larger jobs, but also, I love my community, and at the end of the day, if all that comes out of it is I spend my time helping them pick pillows for however many hours the gift certificate's for, it's a win-win. So
it is. No, it definitely is, because it is all about, like I said, I'm glad that you have the realization now that in order to succeed, you do have to risk failing. That's basically what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've got to put yourself out there.
You do. And that risk of failure, the fact of the matter is that every failure, every mistake, you learn something, even to your lesson of going out and designing this office space for yourself and spending $20,000. And now, here you are working in a home with twins in the middle of it, 6-year-old twins, because your brain is saying, this was not a smart thing for me to do in that time and place. And the next time I do it, I'm going to do it with intention, and I will know that I can afford it. I will know that it's the right time and place. So,
exactly.
Look, that's 20,000 is a very stiff lesson to learn. There's no question. But that's the point of it, is that you're not going to succeed if you don't risk. And some will pay off and some will burn like heck.
Right. And now the specific goals I have for my business in terms of having an office, having, right now I have 2 contractual sort of part-time employees, which is great, was a thing that came out of course, going to the event. And now, I have another goal for having another more part-time, just Christina Bruce Interiors employee. And I just have specific number goals in my head and different things I know need to line up in order for me to have those things. But I've set these goals for myself. And, for example, the office space. Well, as soon as I get a new custom build, basically whole house, which is what I was doing previously with my previous employer, which is really sort of where my expertise lies, is getting in there, at the ground level. Those are profitable. And at the end of the day, practicality wise, they don't have a house to meet at. So we're going to need to have someplace to meet. And I can take all those great ideas I put into that fancy office in Savannah in Vero Beach. So
Groundhog's Day. Well, let's just build that thing over again.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And one of the things that I missed in recounting the different things that you learned at the event was from Michelle Williams. Because that is also very important too. Not only the aha of the new idea, but to listen to an expert like Michelle Williams talk about the value and have her explain how you should think about your money and how you should allocate it, and to be sitting in the audience and thinking, I'm doing that? That's like amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, in general, in my relationship with Kat, in terms of like knowing your superpowers and knowing that I would not be good at this point in my life with managing people and having the pressure of supporting someone else in terms of their salary and them, becoming really a part of my team and family. I just right now, I don't have the bandwidth to worry about paying that person every other week. But I know that I can engage people, and I would like to sort of be out there and be, speaking about my company. And that's sort of where my more national goals lie in terms of being able to someday be something like a style spotter. I hate to use the term influencer because that's just so like, I hate that because that's, it's not that I'm looking to be, the next, Shay McGee. I mean, that would be great. So, but realistically, it's probably not going to happen. But there's some element of that I feel like, sort of lends itself to my personality.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think it's great. And, we cannot end the show without talking about the most amazing thing that, first of all, for you to have this feather in your cap, but the honor and the gift that you gave to me by including me in this next thing of yours. Tell us about this. This is unbelievable.
Of course. So,
and I want to just say, this was a complete surprise. I found out about it on Instagram in your post when you tagged me. So, complete surprise gift.
Absolutely. Well, so after, having this wonderful experience at the event and everything, and just feeling bolstered in terms of thinking what, my goals were. And again, I sort of have this like two-prong approach between my local goals in terms of, being successful in Vero Beach, and then also sort of this slight element of these big dreamy goals that, again, a lot of which I'm not naive and probably won't happen, but at least it's like, well, why does it hurt to try? So one of them, of course, was to have some sort of, partnership with a furniture company. And in thinking about this, all of a sudden it dawned on me, well, I have this amazing, incredible national furniture company that happens to be based out of Little Vero Beach, Florida. And, I just got to thinking about it. And, at the time I had like maybe 3,000 Instagram followers, and it was like, they had like 1,000 Instagram followers. So I thought, well, that's a little
bigger
extra
than them.
I can provide. Yeah. And honestly, LuAnn, I mean, and I do this a lot, and people always say fake it till you make it, which I think is a dangerous idea. I think you can fake the courage until you make it, until you really believe what you're saying, but don't fake the knowledge. That always ends poorly.
Agree. Great. That's a great distinction in that saying. I like that. That's it's a smart distinction.
Yeah, like don't tell a client you can do a kitchen renovation because you've painted your kitchen cabinets and bought a dishwasher. Like, no, that's going to end poorly for everyone. But I just one day, I was in the process of kind of going around to some of the local interior stores and introducing myself, and, letting them know that I had my own company and everything. And I went in there and I spoke with them, and they just were so kind and receptive, and, gave me a whole tour of their amazing facility here in Little Vero Beach, Florida.
So you haven't said their name yet.
Oh, dun, dun, dun. David Francis Furniture. And they, specifically focus on rattan furniture and have several frames that give you the ability to put any sort of, they of course have their own finishes. And now I have the Christina Bruce collection for David Francis Furniture, which is a series of 6 different finishes that I selected, and of course named one of them Pod Green because of my dear friend LuAnn, that inspired me to sort of say, you know what? I mean, what's it going to hurt if I say to them, have you ever thought of doing any sort of partnership? And the woman kind of looked at me like, oh, wow, that's a pretty bold thing to ask. I just met you. And I said, well, you know what? Just think about it, and I will get back with you. And I let it sort of, marinate, I think, for a certain amount of time, and called her again and said, hey, remember me? I'm that girl that came in and, met you first and wanted to do a partnership right off the bat. And I think that honestly, they met with me because they were just sort of like, well, who does that? Well, I do that. I've always just been that way. I mean, that's just like Like as a little kid, I wanted to learn how to do a cartwheel, and I just literally went in my backyard and just kept falling on my face until I finally one day could do it. And, I figure what's it going to hurt? Like you say your mother says, if not you, who? Well,
right.
If I'm not going to ask now, some other designer in Vero Beach might.
That's right. And then you're yesterday's news.
Exactly. So really what the set of 6 colors are just a wide variety of hand-selected colors and finishes. Each color has their own specific sheen, and some have a little bit of a texture to them that I hand-selected and created as a sort of grouping that I think can look nicely together. That our goal is to sort of bring the design and idea of rattan furniture, not just in Florida. It can be, like I said to LuAnn, I said it can be not just a lime green rattan chair in Palm Beach. It can be a beautiful, sort of emerald podcast green color in New Jersey. But the one thing, LuAnn, that you don't know about your podcast green is that, of course, I had to pick the specific finish for each color. And your podcast green is a very, very high gloss finish, which is because when you first came out at the event, I've seen pictures of you and heard your voice. I could hear it in my sleep if I wanted to. But you came out, and Kat, French, and I simultaneously turned to each other the second you got on stage and under those lights and said, "Her hair is so shiny. How is her hair so shiny?" And then we kept joking, like, I want to ask these important design questions, but I also want to ask her, like, so why is your hair so shiny? So I decided that would just be a funny little nod to my girl, Kat, of course, and you to make it this beautiful high gloss, shiny, like your beautiful hair. So.
Oh my God, that's so funny. That is hysterical. Oh my goodness, that is hysterical. Well, I have to say, there have been many things that have happened during the course of having this podcast for, 3.5 years and almost 500 episodes, and that have just blown me away. That I got an email this morning from Nancy, who is in my Sales for Creatives course, and it just is, 5 paragraphs of all the things that she learned and the things that she felt about being in the course. And so I'm really very grateful for all of this because, it's just like when you create a beautiful room. If you create a beautiful room and your client just walks in and says, "Okay, thanks," you're sort of like, "Really? Like, that's it? Thanks?" Yeah. And so, but, and I'm doing this podcast, and that's why I love to do live events, whether it's my own event or go somewhere, because otherwise I'm just sitting in the 3rd floor of my house, talking to the airways, right?
Right.
But, that was a particular unbelievable, surreal moment to wake up that day and be tagged in an Instagram post and to see that I've developed this, the Christina Bruce collection for David Francis Furniture, and this color pod green is named for a mentor of mine. I just was like, and at that point, we had only met at LuAnn Live briefly.
Correct.
It wasn't like,
yeah.
It's not like we've met each other at several events. It's not like we've known each other or whatever. I mean, that was truly a surprise and a gift. And, and it's funny because I don't often, text everything around and send it to my mom or send it. But I was like, even Vin, I was like, "You have to look at this. Look at it." He's like, and he goes, "Wow, that's pretty amazing." I'm like, "You're darn right. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty amazing."
To the same end, I've had a lot of great mentors too, but I think you of all have done honestly the most for me in such a short amount of time between when I started listening to your podcast just this past October to now, where going to your live event has just completely turned around not just my company and my success, but my mentality and my outlook and my focus on why it is I do what I do. And, it helped me to sort of be motivated and love design again and get excited and motivated to start this new journey of, opening Christina Bruce Interiors. So I appreciate you so much. So you don't know that.
I love it. And I'm the thing that I know to be true is, first, I accept and thank you for the compliments. Okay. So I want to not go by that. However, the reality is that you are taking the action. So you are taking it, like I said, when we left that event, I said, "I've watched you guys for 2.5 days. Take crazy notes. Don't let them just sit in the notebook.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. And you move them from notebook to action. And so really, the credit goes to you. It's the credit does not go to me. So the credit goes to you and to each of your colleagues that are doing the same thing as you, as listening to the show and coming to the events and moving it to a spark of an idea, to a plan, to an action, to a result. And so my hat's off to you, Christina. And I can't tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. And I just thank you so much, for calling the color pod green, but for sharing, the DM with me, and for being, I think you might be the first VIP guest to use those headsets. And there I think there's 49 others of you that I'm waiting for that phone call from and that email from that tells me you're ready to tell me the things that's just like Christina that you have done to turn a corner in your business or to blow something up or to just get more clarity on. So if you're out there, hit me up, info@luannigara.com. And Christina, I look forward to seeing you, if not before, at the next LuAnn Live, which is going to be in the fall of 2020. So
absolutely. It could not come soon enough. And I know that even though, I went to the previous one, I'm going to come back with a completely new mentality and have, a different place with different things to learn.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's just like the Power Talk Friday tours. Either the very small one-day coaching events that I do where we might only have 6 interior designers in the room. We might have 10 interior designers in the room, but I would definitely not have more than 15 in a room. And the reality is that it's often less than that, which is just fine with me. And the fact of the matter is this last group of designers that attended in Las Vegas, they were the ones at the end of it that said, you could go to every single one of these and they're all completely different because the coaches, the experts that I invite are completely different. So it's one of them actually said, I feel like I'm going to make this a line item in my budget, that I'm just going to budget, this three times a year. And it's going to be just my almost like a booster shot every quarter, and I love it because, you are going to learn something different from Nicole Heimer, as Kay Whitaker, as Michelle Williams. And so it's just it's just a fantastic event to watch the light bulbs go off. That's what I love. I love having the conversations in those small groups and watching the light bulbs off. But even in LuAnn Live, it felt like 200 of us were 20 of us. It was amazing.
Oh, for sure. One big happy family, for sure.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate, getting to know you and the honor that you've given me. And a big shout out to David Francis Furniture for, indulging your naming of the color. So thank you, Christina. You have a great day.
Thank you, LuAnn. You have a great day too.
All right off the bat, I want to clarify something I said during the show. In talking about a parent as the most important job that you have to do, I very specifically mean if you are a parent, okay? Meaning, I'm not saying being a parent is the single most important thing to be in this world. That's just not a true statement. Instead, what I actually believe is that once you have become one, now it is the most important thing you'll do. And there's a big difference in that, right? Look, Oprah, Mother Teresa, these are amazing women who have impacted our world at the highest level for the benefit of all of us. And these ladies, along with countless other women and men who have not had children, and I promise you, I couldn't care less that they haven't, what they have done for our world, for humanity, is to be revered, acknowledged, and admired. And so, in my opinion only, though, once you do have a kid, please do the rest of us in the world a favor, and that awesome kid of yours too, and raise them to the best of your abilities. I'm just making sure that we are clear on my thoughts on the matter. I don't want any crazy pants emails or misunderstandings between us, okay? Now, Christina's episode. I love how the speakers at LuAnn Live, It's About the Conversation, provided the spark of inspiration for ideas that Christina took back and then tweaked to fit her own business model. She didn't get lost in the weeds on things. She didn't say, I don't want to do restaurant design, so as delightful as Dala Afawaris is, this conversation isn't for me. No, she didn't get tied up in thinking, I don't have enough for an email campaign, so this conversation with Kay Whitaker isn't for me, right? Instead, Christina took what was being said. She allowed her mind to wander, to play with the concepts that they were talking about, and then she gave herself the permission to develop them into strategies that do work for her business model, right? I love it. I love that so much, all right? Now, the other part of the conversation that I liked was talking about failures and specifically talking about learning from them, about standing back up after a failure, and about understanding that enduring failure is a part of business. As an entrepreneur, you must be willing to handle risk. Every day is not going to be comfortable. Every day is not going to go well, and every day is not necessarily going to end well. It's all part of this game. So being prepared to look at the lesson, to learn from it, and move forward is part of the deal. You don't have to like having hard lessons or expensive lessons, but if you plan to have a successful, sustainable business, you do have to go through them, all right? Now, bottom line here, I am thrilled to learn that listening to the podcast and attending LuAnn Live, It's About the Conversation, has turned Christina's business around, that both have impacted her mindset and that together they've had an actual, measurable, positive effect on her business. And as I said to Christina, it is her win. Okay. She is the one who took advantage of the opportunity to learn from the podcast and to attend the event. And she is the one that has taken the information and turned it into results. So what about you? Will you do the same? I hope so, because I am beyond excited to announce LuAnn Live, It's About the Conversation 2020 is happening. Yes, it is. It's going to happen most likely, I would say 99% in November of 2020. So mark your calendars. We will be gathering in New Jersey. I know. I cannot wait. And I have been dying to tell you, okay? So many of you have sent me emails and messages over the last several weeks asking me when it will be. And so the thing is, while I don't have the registration open just yet, I know you've been trying to plan your 2020 travel calendar. So put it in ink and plan to be in the lovely Garden State next November 2020. All right. Tickets will be available in the next month or so. So to be sure you don't miss the announcement and to be sure you don't miss the chance to get a ticket, get on this specific email list for the announcement. Okay. Go to LuAnnLive.com. All right. LuAnnLive.com. This is what's going to happen. When I'm ready to open up the registration, I'm first going to send an email to everyone that attended last year, right? You will get the very first chance to buy your tickets. Then I'm going to send an email to whoever is on this list, LuAnnLive.com. All right. And then I'm going to give you guys a chance to sign up. And then once that happens, then I will announce it on the podcast and I will put it in my weekly newsletter. All right. So, yeah, I'm playing a little bit of favorites here. Just going to tell you, I have to give due respect and status to the people that took the chance on coming to the very first LuAnn Live last year. So you had no idea what to expect and you came anyway. And I value and I appreciate that so much. So you will get the first opportunity to sign up for the next event. All right. And you've been hearing, you've seen it in social media. You've heard it on the podcast episodes. I'm sure you've run into somebody at one of the markets that told you what an outstanding, game-changing event it was. I'm very proud of it. I'm so grateful to my entire team who put it together. And I'm very excited that I will be soon announcing who my co-authors are in the next volume of A Well-Designed Business, the Power Talk Friday Experts, right? Because the event serves as the launch of the book, all right? So head over to LuAnnLive.com so that you get the email alert when I have opened up the registration. Finally, a big thank you to Christina and to David Francis Furniture for the tremendous honor of her naming her collection color for me. What a thrill. I mean, really, really, really such a thrill. Be sure to visit davidfrancis.com and be sure to visit Christina Bruce Interiors.com. Who knows, maybe something in this collection will be right for one of your upcoming design projects. All right? Now, take a cue from the title of my first book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, Turn Inspiration into Action. This is the key, all right? Just as Christina did, she turned inspiration into action. Find the inspiration to be a better business owner, a better designer, a better human. Then definitely turn it into action. If you do that, it would make me so very happy. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.